Good afternoon, everyone.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Okay, let us start. We have been learning agricultural systems in the world, and today we shall discuss about four important agricultural systems, if the time permits. Now, let us start. Let me share my screen. So today, let us start with plantation agriculture. Okay, plantation agriculture. Actually, it is related with the plantation of cash crops and other trees. Okay, let us read. Plantation agriculture, as mentioned above, was introduced by the Europeans in colonies situated in the tropics. Okay, this type of agriculture was introduced by the European countries in their colonies, in their respective colonies, including India. Okay, and some important plantation crops are tea, coffee, cocoa, rubber, cotton, oil palm, sugarcane, bananas, and pineapple. So these are the important plantation crops introduced by Europeans in their colonies. Now let us find out the important characteristic features of this type of farming, that is plantation agriculture. So the first important feature is that large estates or plantations. The size of the farmland, okay, is very big, usually more than 40 hectares of land. Size of the estate, that is the size of the farmland, is big, more than 40 hectares of land. Then another characteristic is that large capital investment is required. Okay, to initiate and to maintain the business, a large sum of money is required. Then managerial and technical support. Okay, see, it needs specialized skills. Okay, to manage the plantation work and business activity. And another one is that scientific methods of cultivation, okay, is done. Actually, emphasis is also laid on the production and breeding of new crops. Okay, and that cross pollination, for example, and research and development activities sometimes included. So scientific treatment of plants and research and development also there in this type of agriculture. Then single crop specialization, that is only one type of crop is grown in a farmland, okay, in a plantation or in a state, only one type of crop is grown, that is single crop specialization. Then ship labor, actually ship labor is required, for example, in the case of tea plantation, plucking of tea leaves is done by hand, and therefore ship labor is required. And ship labor is usually supplied by local people or by the migrant laborers. Okay, and the last but not the least, a good system of transportation is required. So this system of transportation will link the estates to the factories and the markets for the export of the products. You know, plantation agriculture is a type of commercial agriculture, and it is related with the business activity. Okay, And that is why a good system of transportation is required to connect the farms with the factories and the factories with the market for the selling of the goods, okay, for the export of the goods to different parts of the world. So these are the important characteristic features of the plantation agriculture. Any question, boys and girls? Actually,
Yes, sir.
you may be familiar with this type of, okay, for example, this is a photograph showing this coconut, okay, a photograph showing coconut plantation, okay, in a small island, Banatu island, okay, coconut plantation. We have some more examples here. This is an example of sugarcane plantation in Cuba. I think here this area and other areas also you'll find. This is an example of sugarcane plantation, and here, okay, this is cocoa, okay, cocoa plantation. Just see here, cocoa plantation. Actually, it is mainly done in the African countries, and one more, okay, here. So this is the cocoa. Okay, it is used in different purposes, making beverages, then chocolates and other items. Okay, so if you don't have question, then let us continue. The French established cocoa and the coffee plantation in West Africa. Okay, cocoa, I think you have seen the photograph. The French established cocoa and coffee plantation in West Africa. Then British set up tea gardens in India and Sri Lanka, rubber plantation in Malaysia, then sugarcane and banana plantation in West Indies. Okay, I think you may be knowing the location also. So here the French established, okay, that cocoa and this coffee plantation in West Africa. Then the British started the tea plantation in India, then Sri Lanka. Okay, then what are the other reasons? Then rubber plantation in Malaysia. Actually, Malaysia is here. Okay, this is a small country here, Malaysia. Then sugarcane and banana plantation in West Indies. Okay, West Indies. This here, a group of islands. Okay, here this region, West Indies. And Spanish and Americans invested heavily in coconut and sugarcane plantations in the Philippines. Okay, the Dutch had once had monopoly over sugarcane plantation in Indonesia, and some coffee fazendas. Fazendas means this large plantation. Okay, in Brazil, are known as fazendas, are still managed by the Europeans. Okay, so coffee plantation was, okay, coffee plantation. So who introduced Americans and these Spanish? Okay, Americans and the Spanish invested heavily in coconut plantation, not coffee plantation. Okay, coconut and sugarcane plantation in the Philippines. So Philippines is here. Okay, Philippines is here in the Philippines. Then these Indonesian islands, I think you may be knowing the location. The Dutch once had monopoly over sugarcane plantation in Indonesia. Indonesian islands, so this group of islands here, Indonesian islands. So these are the reasons where plantation agriculture is practiced, introduced by the European countries. Okay, not only this, the European countries introduced coffee plantations in Brazil. Okay, and still In Brazil, some of the fazendas, large coffee plantations, okay, are still managed by the Europeans. See here in Brazil, some of the coffee plantations known as fazendas are still managed by the Europeans. Today, ownership of the majority of plantation has passed into the hands of government or the nationals of the countries concerned. Nowadays, most of the plantations are run and managed by the respective countries and the nationals. So here in our book also we have tea plantation as an example. Okay, you must know that the slopes of hills are used for tea plantation because of favorable geographical condition. Actually, tea plantation requires a rolling ground. Okay, there should not be water logging, and that is why we prefer rolling grounds. Okay, or the or gentle slopes of the hills for tea plantation. And in the midst of the tea plantation, you may find trees also. So these trees will protect the bright sunlight from the uh, tea leaves, okay, from the tender leaves. So these are about plantation agriculture. Up to here, any question, boys and girls?
No, sir.
So next we have another type of agriculture known as extensive commercial grain cultivation. So actually here, why extensive? Why the name is given? Because the size of the lane is very big. Why commercial? Because cultivation is done, crops are grown mainly for selling, and that is why the name is given. So commercial grain cultivation is practiced in the interior part of semi-arid lanes of mid-latitudes. So this type of agriculture is practiced in the middle latitudes, in the semi-arid lanes. Okay, semi-arid means semi-desert lanes where the rainfall is between this 25 to 75. Okay, so wheat is the principal crop. Remember, an important feature is that wheat is the important principal crop. Though other crops like corn, then barley, oats, and rye are also grown. Wheat is the most important crop. In addition to this, corn, that is maize, then barley, oats, and rye are also grown. You know, rye, it is also known as poor man's food in America. But nowadays in America, rye is mainly used as a fodder for the animals also. Okay. So another important characteristic of this farming is that the size of the farm is very large, sometimes more than 2,000 hectares of land in USA, Canada. Okay, then the entire operation of cultivation from plowing to harvesting are mechanized, fully mechanized. Okay, in this type of farming, since the size of the farm is big, the entire farm operation is mechanized from plowing to harvesting. And therefore there is this low yield per acre. There is a low yield per acre, means since thousands of hectares of land is are cultivated by a single man, okay, using machines, the productivity uh, okay, per unit, the productivity per person is very high. The productivity per person is very high. The yield per person is very high since it is fully mechanized. However, when we divide the total products by the area, then the yield, the productivity is low. See here, there is low yield per acre. That means productivity per unit area of land is low because the size of the land is big. However, yield per person is high because thousands of hectares of land are cultivated and harvested by a single person using machines. Okay, so here figure number 5.11 shows an example of mechanized farming. Okay, here combined crews are capable of harvesting grains over many hectares in a single day. So these are combined, these machines are known as combines, and we have some more bigger photographs also. See here, this is the combine. Okay, this is the combine machine, and it is harvesting wheat. Okay, in the middle latitudes in the prairies of USA and Canada. And we have one more photographs here. So this is a group of combines harvesting wheat. Okay, so in this way, in this type of farming, okay, it is heavily mechanized. So about the areas where the extensive commercial grain farming is practiced, okay, this type of agriculture is best developed in the Eurasian steppes, that is temperate grasslands, okay. Then Canadian and American prairies, Pampas or Argentina, here Pampas or Argentina, the belts of South Africa, then Australian Downs, and Canterbury Plains of New Zealand. So in these grasslands, in these temperate grasslands, extensive commercial grain farming is practiced. So figure number 5.12 shows the same. So here we have figure number 5.12. Okay, let's see here. Here in North America, it is practiced here. See the shaded areas. Okay, prairies of North America, prairies of USA and Canada, then steppes of Eurasia, steppes of Russia here, here grassland, temperate grassland. Then in South America, pampas in Argentina, then velds, the grassland, okay, in South Africa, then downs in Australia here, and the Canterbury Plains in the New Zealand. So in these grasslands, extensive commercial grain farming is practiced. Okay. So any question regarding extensive commercial grain farming, boys and girls?
No, sir.
Okay. Remember the productivity, that is the yield per person, is high because it is fully mechanized. A person, a single person can cultivate and harvest thousands of hectares of land using machines. So next we have another agricultural system, that is mixed farming. Okay, why it is known as by this name, why it is called by this name, mix? Because here in this type of farming, rearing of animals together with the growing of crops is done, and that is why the name mixed farming is given. Okay, and this form of agriculture is found in the highly developed parts of the world. So it is practiced in highly developed parts of the world, for example, northwestern Europe, then eastern North America, then part of Eurasia, that is Russia, and temperate latitudes of southern continents. Figure number 5.14 shows the same. And so here we have these areas of mixed farming. Okay, so here we have this eastern North America is here. See the shaded portion. Then northwestern Europe, actually this is industrialized area of European continent. Then here parts of southern parts of Russia, that is Eurasia. Okay, and in the these southern continents also. We have some areas here and some areas in Africa. Okay, in South America also. Okay, temperate latitudes of southern continents, that is here in Argentina and again in the South Africa. Okay, so in these areas mixed farming is practiced. And about the characteristic features, okay, so mixed farms are moderate in size. Okay, it is not as big as the extensive commercial grain farming. It is moderate. The size of the farm is moderate, and maybe say 100 or 200 or even less than, okay, 100 hectares of land. And usually the crops associated with it are wheat, then barley, oats, rye, maize, fodder, that is the food for the animals, and the root crops. Okay, so important crops grown in this type of farming are wheat, barley, oats, rye, maize, fodder, and root crops. And fodder crops are an important component of mixed farming because fodder is required for animals. So this is a very important component of mixed farming. So crop rotation and intercropping play an important role in maintaining soil fertility. To maintain the soil fertility, they practice crop rotation and intercropping. So can you tell me say what crop rotation is? Can you give me an example? What do you mean by crop rotation? What do you mean by intercropping? Actually, for the crop rotation, for example, this is the agricultural field, and here first we may grow wheat. Okay, after harvesting wheat, then we may grow pulses, leguminous crop. Then after harvesting leguminous, another type of crop may be grown. So that is what we call crop rotation. Okay, so this process is beneficial, okay, to retain the fertility. And for the intercropping, okay, intercropping, just I will show you some photographs. Okay, see, this is a photograph showing intercropping. I think you may find strips of vegetable here. This is one type of vegetable. This is another type of vegetable. Okay, so in this way we may find, okay, rows of different types of uh, vegetables or crops. So let me show you some more photographs. So here this is another photograph showing this intercropping. Okay, here it is, we find a row of maize, then another row of another crops. So this is another vegetable, and likewise some more photograph here. This is another one. Okay, this is large scale one, and here we have one more. Okay, this is another one. So here also, see, we find a row of maize and another row of chili. Okay, so this is what we call intercropping. So this is very common. Okay, this is very common in the case of mixed farming, and this has been done to maintain the soil fertility. Okay, so another important feature is that equal emphasis is laid on crop cultivation and animal husbandry. That is why the name is given mixed farming. Okay, equal emphasis is laid on crop cultivation and animal husbandry, that is rearing of animals. And animals like cattle, sheep, pigs, poultry provide the main income along with the crops. Okay, Then mixed farming is characterized by high capital expenditure on farm machinery. So huge capital is required, okay, to buy farm machinery and a building, okay, to construct buildings, cow sheds, cattle sheds. Then extensive use of chemical fertilizer and green manures are done. Then skill and expertise of farmers required. So these are the important characteristics of a mixed farming. Okay, number one, huge capital is required, okay, for farm machinery and building. Then there is extensive use of chemical fertilizers and green manures. And another one is that, okay, skill and expertise of farmers, okay, required. So these are the important features of mixed farming. Then up to here, any question, boys and girls? Okay, then the last agricultural system for today, that is dairy farming. Okay, so dairy farming is the most advanced and efficient type of rearing milk animals. Milk animals means animals producing milk. Okay, so dairy farming is the most advanced and efficient type of rearing milk animals. And about the characteristics, it is highly capital intensive. Dairy farming is highly capital intensive. Huge capital is required. Then animal sheds, storage facilities for fodder, feeding and milking machines add to the cost of dairy farming. So huge capital is required for the animal sheds, storage facilities for the fodder, then feeding materials, then milking machines. Okay, then special emphasis is laid on cattle breeding, health care, and veterinary services. So this is another feature, another important characteristic feature. Special emphasis is laid on cattle breeding, breeding of cattle. Okay, new variety done. Then health care of the animals done. Veterinary services also there. So here figure number 5.13 shows a dairy farm in Austria, okay, in Austria, European country. And we have some more photographs here. See, this is also a scene of dairy farming, okay, as I see here. And some more photographs, okay, see here. So this is the milking process. Okay, so this is the milking process, actually done by machines, okay, not by hand. And one more in Germany, okay, this is in Germany. In Germany they have rotary system, okay, they have rotary systems. And so here also milking is going on, okay, it is known as milking parlor. It is in Germany, okay. And next we have some more features. It is highly labor intensive, okay, not only machines are required, so labor also intensive, okay, it is highly labor intensive as it involves rigorous care in feeding and milking. And there is no off season during the year, as in the case of crop raising. In the case of cultivation, okay, as in the case of growing of crops, sometimes we find off season. However, in the case of dairy farming, we don't find off season. Okay, so this is a continuous process and labor intensive. And so this dairy farming is practiced mainly near urban and industrial centers, which provide neighborhood market for fresh milk and dairy products. Okay, so see, this type of farming, dairy farming, is mainly practiced nearby the big cities, urban centers and industrial centers, because Big cities and urban centers provide a good market, and if it is practiced nearby it, then they can provide fresh milk also. Then the development of transportation, refrigeration, pasteurization, and other preservation process have increased the duration of storage of various dairy products. So this is new development. Now we have this fast movement of vehicles. Then now we have refrigeration facilities, we have pasteurization facilities, okay, that is killing of germs, okay, harmful germs, by raising the temperature up to certain level, then again lowering the temperature, then again raising the temperature. So continuous process, okay, in that process germs will be killed, that is known as pasteurization. And the preservation processes have increased the duration of storage for various dairy products. So this is a new development. And about the areas of uh, dairy farming, we have three main reasons, okay, of commercial dairy farming. The largest is the northwestern Europe. The largest region where mixed dairy farming is practiced is the northwestern Europe. Then the second one is Canada. The third belt include southeastern Australia, New Zealand, and the Tasmania. Figure number 5.16 shows the same, and it is here. Okay, it is here. Yes. Here we have. So here this is Canadian part. Okay, Canadian part industrial region, and this is northwestern Europe. Okay, and in the southern hemisphere we have southeastern, see the dark shaded area, southeastern, sorry, is here, southeastern Australia, and this small island is known as Tasmania. Okay, this small island Tasmania, and this is New Zealand. So in these areas, okay, in these areas dairy farming is mainly practiced. So here we have Canada, northwestern Europe, then southeastern Australia, then south of Australia we have a small island known as Tasmania, then New Zealand. Okay, so in these areas we have this dairy farming. Okay, now can you find out some point of difference between dairy farming and mixed farming, boys and girls? Can you find out some differences between mixed farming and dairy farming? So let us find out. Okay, it is here. It is here. Uh, See, the first point of difference between mixed farming and dairy farming is that mixed farms are those where crops are grown and the cattle are reared simultaneously. But dairy farming is only milk cattle. Okay, in dairy farming only milk cattle are reared. In case of mixed farming, both rearing of animals and the growing of crops done. However, in case of dairy farming, only cattle are reared. Okay, milk cattle are reared. Second point, in mixed farming, variety of crops are grown. Okay, but in dairy farming, only fodder crops are grown. Only fodder crops, grasses, fodder crops for the animals are grown. Number three, mixed farming is in mixed farming, equal emphasis is given on crop cultivation as well as animal husbandry. But in dairy farming, stress is given on the rearing of good quality of cattle. Fourth point, mixed farming is capital intensive, but dairy farming is both capital intensive as well as labor intensive. Okay. And fifth point, mixed farming is largely developed in the European countries, but dairy farming is developed largely in Denmark, Germany, eastern part of North America, New Zealand, southeastern part of Canada. So these are the 5 important points of distinction between mixed farming and dairy farming. Okay, So these points are very important for the exams. So any question, boys and girls?
No, sir.
Okay, then for today, up to here. Thank you very much for joining my class. Thank you all.